Hey guys, and welcome to the SoCal Smash Talk Show episode number 2. And you guys are probably wondering, hey, Vance, where are all the casters and the commentators and the players who usually join on the show? Well, don't worry, this is just a quick introduction to the episode, basically because the original 2 to 4 minutes of this episode was actually lost in terms of audio. My audio was actually silent for about the first 2 to 4 minutes. And it was due to my part, and thanks to somebody on the Twitch chat, they pointed me out that, something was wrong with the audio. So I decided, you know what, I can do a hot fix and just, patch it up with this introduction video, which is what I'm doing right now. Of course, at the time of this recording, I'm actually going to an invitational, so I'm trying to, record this for you guys. It's not the Super Smash Bros. Invitational that's happening this summer, if you guys are wondering. If you're going to want to see your boy get out, tweet at Nintendo and let them know that I am available. But aside from that, most importantly, joining me this episode is going to be Gpik and Korean, who you guys might have seen from the Smash Masters League Battle for Las Vegas. And they are joining me today with this episode. And of course, like I said, the original 2 to 4 minutes was lost. And I wanted to basically introduce to you guys the episode and in a different way. So basically, without further ado, I bring to you the SoCal Smash Talk Show, as I previously said, each and every week live on twitch.tv/SoCal Smash Network. We record the SoCal Smash Talk Show for your viewing pleasure. Of course, if you miss the episode live, you guys can always watch it here on YouTube, where, like you guys see right now. Excuse me for that. I was drinking some LaCroix earlier, but basically we bring our topics to the show and for your viewing pleasure, and we discuss them. And of course, if you have a community topic, feel free to tweet out Ask SCSN and go ahead and ask a question. If we like the topic, it may actually be included as our final topic of the show. Your community topics actually really matter to us because it lets us know what the community has in their minds as well. And of course, each and every week we have a rotating chair of commentators and players who join us for the show. And that's pretty much the basic introduction. Aside from that, I also wanted to let you guys know that this show is free of any ads or any Patreons. You guys do not have to pay through any paywall just to watch the episode or even see it live on twitch.tv. Of course, like I said, this is the beta phase. I will find a way to change that. I'm in some level where I want to include ads, but I don't want them to take over the show too much, or the first thing you see is an ad. I kind of want to slowly just maybe introduce something where I maybe talk about the events that you may see several commentators and players at, and I'll use that as a way to advertise for that said event. So you guys can always be in the know of several Twitch streams, because sometimes it's hard to keep up with all the Smash events that happen, especially when it comes to the Summer of Smash. So guys, without further ado, I bring to you episode number 2 of the SoCal Smash Talk Show. And I want to say thank you guys for sitting through this, I would say maybe 3-minute video of me talking and introducing to it. Until next guy, I am bringing another guy for the next episode, by the way. But until next time, guys, without further ado, this is Vance, and please enjoy the show.
The recap by Korean about the Smash Masters battle in Las Vegas.
So I wanted to talk about Smash Masters Battle for Vegas, of course. It's going to be, well, it was a really big tournament with a really big pot, $25,000 pot in Vegas. What I really liked about the tournament, I felt like the only thing really missing from the tournament, top player-wise, there's a lot of just top players in general, but I feel like there was only one player that was in contention for number 1 that didn't go, and that was the Buzz. So if the Buzz did go, it would have been, for me, it would have been really exciting, because it's like you have all these guys, they're kind of like scattered all over the place, winning all these different tournaments that are big, but not all of them were in one single tournament. So Battle for Vegas was the closest thing this current PGR season that had the most players like in contention for number 1 at the same spot. Overall, it wasn't as stacked as Genesis, because Genesis, like the whole skill level overall was just crazy. So there was like some top players missing, but for the most part, there like so much people went to Genesis, so like just overall it felt more stacked. But yeah, other than that, Esports Arena Vegas, that was like the premier opening of their venue, so that's very interesting. Mm-hmm. It's literally inside the Luxor, which was, to me, the very cool concept. It looked very nice. I really enjoyed the venue. And yeah, I felt like a lot of people just in general enjoyed the venue. I know both of you guys were there. How did you guys feel about the venue?
I really liked the venue. Honestly, I thought that it was a really good venue. I felt so weird to be there because it was very Hollywood. I'm not used to that. Like here in SoCal, we have the esports arena in Santa Ana, and I like how kind of casual but esports it is. Like it kind of has a really good vibe to it. It has a good blend of both esports, but still kind of the next step. But at the Luxor Casino, I felt like it was super Hollywood, not in a bad way, in a really, really great way. I just was so, I don't know, I was just so taken back, like, wow, this is where we're going. This is where we're at now. And for Smash to be on a stage like this, it just kind of blew my breath away. I don't know, I felt it was great. But like I said, I was so like taken back, like, man, this is some Nintendo levered like sponsored event. This is something that you only see at like a high level tourney, at something like your basic like G5 or even some kind of invitational. And I really, really liked how professional it was done. I really liked the setting too. It had a nice commentator booth. I believe they had several rooms for you guys, and then they even had a separate room that was located where you guys could do the analyst desk. I think the performance is a lot smaller than the one here in SoCal, but in terms of like production, in terms of how it was done, in terms of how clean and how I guess the aesthetic of the place, it was beautiful. I really, really liked it a lot.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. It was the thing that really blew me away is what you hinted at the end there, Vance, is just the potential production value at that new venue is like nuts. They have, I think, 4 different rooms backstage just filled with monitors, all for the just production work backstream, for them to coordinate all sorts of camera switches and stuff. And like even the day of the finals, like I actually managed to get into one of those rooms, and like there were like 14 people there just working furiously away at every moment of like whatever game was on. It's like, is that a highlight we need to go back to later? Like we need to get a camera ready on this player, constantly buzzing around and stuff. And like seeing the hive of work that goes into the back end of these high production streams, it was really eye-opening. So I'm really, really optimistic for the future of the Smash Masters League if they keep this up.
Yeah, I want to say it's something really, really cool because, of course, like we all know, there's a Nintendo Versus, and last week we talked about how like that's Nintendo's big venture into esports. We have Blizzard who supports their games so strongly. We have Call of Duty who, Activision and Sony, support their games. The Capcom Pro Tour. I'm not saying that it's gonna fail. I'm pretty sure Nintendo Versus will be fine, but if we don't see some kind of big movement from them, it's good to know that a company like ESA, it's okay about the doggo. A company like ESA, a company like 2GG, even in NorCal, I know that you guys have the jeez, I'm losing the name. Showdown Smash.
ESA.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You guys
also,
have ESA, yeah, but you guys have Showdown Smash. They are these companies in place to help the scene even move forward than what it is, like what we're used to. That's why I kind of liked about it. It kind of lets us know like the scene is in good hands, to be honest. And that's what it kind of showed off, that the scene is in good hands, even if Nintendo is not like going to give us a venue or something else aside from, the invitational. It's good to know that the scene is in good hands by these people.
Yeah. One other thing that was fun. I don't know if you guys had the chance to, but I got to see a couple just like Vegas tourists, just hanging out, checking out the ESA in the middle of the tournament who had like no idea about anything about Smash. And it was really fun to see their reactions to the gameplay and stuff. Cause like at first they're like, what are these guys have been playing for? So I explained like the pot is 25,000 and their eyes went huge. They think that like, so much money was on the line. And it was interesting because like some of them followed esports from other games. So they're like, oh, that player's from Echo Fox. Like he's really good, but he's up against some random. And he was pointing at Fallen. I'm like, that's not a random. He's just not sponsored right now. But it was really interesting to see like people taking a great interest in the game, like actually really wanting to watch the sets and stuff, even though they didn't really have as much of an idea of what was going on. And I think that speaks well to like the potential going forward for us.
Yeah. I have to agree. I think it's one of those deals where, like, the first time I ever felt an interaction like that from, I guess, normies per se, or just normal people, was the first time that we did the nudes event over at ESA I want to say like a year ago, actually. And it was a really good combination of seeing people who aren't used to seeing esports and people who are here for a casual event. And it was kind of the mixing of the worlds. Like, it's finally letting people know that, hey, there is this game called Super Smash Brothers, and it's being played at a professional level, and this is just one of the many events. I thought it was really cool that a lot of these players were picked up, like Echo Fox. A lot of people know who Echo Fox is, because I would say easily one of the number one teams out there that people look at in terms of like, FGC and certain games like that. I lost my words for a minute, but I think it's really good that a lot of people are starting to see that. I thought what was really, really good is that so I believe Thursday, they had the exhibition between Goichi and Sonic Fox as their opener. So I think that's really, really cool. It's letting us know that this place has so much they're gonna do. And even I know a lot of people kind of like are not a big fan of EMX. I think it's really good that this place doubles as a level of, I guess, like a kind of nightclub per se, because that's what they were going for, a level of a nightclub. And I kind of like that they have a lot of multiple uses. I think it's a perfect event to, like we saw the exhibition match between those two players. I think it's a perfect event for invitationals. And this kind of felt like an invitational. There were a lot of big names missing per se, like Korean said, the buzz wasn't really there. And I feel that that's also super important to the bracket, because when some of these players don't go to the bracket, that changes things by a huge level. We saw it at correct me if I'm wrong, I think it might have been Frostbite this year. What happened was because we didn't have Nairo and...
Yeah, it was the same weekend as the Tokaigi event in Japan, so a lot of notables were over there instead. And yeah, we were missing Nairo, and I think Ally and Void were also over there. I think Larry was there. A lot of mainstays.
Yeah, and that changes the way that brackets work so much. I kind of want to hand that off to you, Korean. What do you think that... How much has it affected in a good way and in a bad way for these players who just are used to a different kind of bracket? Then when they go, oh no, the Buzz is here, oh no, Void is here, oh no, Nairo is here, like that changes it so much in terms of the landscape.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I mean, the Buzz not being there was a very big deal. Just recently he's been doing really well. He's been getting first place. So I mean, at this point, it feels like he can kind of just beat anybody. There's just I feel like there's a good chunk of players that are in contention for first. They can pretty much beat everyone. It just depends on how well they're playing. As to before where we had Zero, and it was kind of just like, well, if Zero's on, like he's just going to beat anybody. He's just that good. So there's not. I feel like there's no clear-cut divide. It's starting to kind of shape up now that it seems like it's probably between Leo and Nairo, but asterisk, it's just the tweak wand tourneys, and then the Buzz wasn't there. That's why there's so many things in the air right now. So it just changes all that. I just feel like there's no clear cut number one yet, especially in terms of this specific season, because it's just there's not that much events. There's not that many really big events that everyone in contention for number one is going to. So yeah, that's a really big deal. Another thing I want to talk about is just the production that Esports Arena provides. They definitely show another level of production. I've commentated. I won't say I commentate crazy amounts of events, but out of all the events I have commentated, ESA has the highest production, and it seemed like they really wanted to push it at Vegas. And one thing I do like, they got a lot of flack, but I like that they're willing to take risks. They're taking risks. They're gathering that data. So on the mainstream or on the main stage, there was the mainstream station in the middle, and then there's two side areas, and everyone assumed that if you're on stage or on stream, but essentially what they did was if the mainstream was done, they'll switch to one of the other matches. It kind of got a lot of flack by the community. Most people didn't like it. So, but it's still good that they tried that, and they, and I do see potential, because I feel like for those two side areas, if they played the matches on the two, there was three big screens you could look at. And on the two side screens, they had the player cam, but instead, I feel like if you just played the matches that were going on underneath, for the two side areas, a spectator, an in-person spectator, can look at three different matches, and you're gonna put hype matches up there too. So I felt like they can dabble. There's a lot of stuff they can do. Of course, they had the analyst desk, which they tried out in the championship, and I mean, honestly, I feel most people in the community won't like the analyst desk too much. But as long as it's not there's other games where the analyst desk will last 20-30 minutes. I feel like that's what they want to avoid. I felt like the analyst desk at Vegas was pretty short. It was kind of short to the point, and then right back into it. So I thought that was a good balance, and I think it didn't seem like too much people on Twitter were bashing the analyst desk too much. Seemed like most people liked it, so that's good. Another thing is they did a lot of interviews. So pretty much the one thing that I noticed, like most of the people on Twitter didn't like the interviews. Like I guess towards the beginning, they just wanted to see games. Like, okay, like
Yeah.
match is over. Like, give me another game. Like, I want to watch another game. And it's like, honestly, I feel like maybe in a top 8 setting where it's like already top 8, you know, and like make time for that production. But like, you know, at top 8, that's when like when someone wins, they beat someone like extremely good. You know what I mean? Like the victory, like is just like, oh man, like thank goodness I did that. Like, wow, that was hard. You know what I mean? But then when Nairo like fights his round 1 winners, and I'm not saying like the guy that he fought was bad or anything, but like at the end of the day, Nairo's like very much so expected to win that. You know what I'm saying? In terms of seeding. So it's like when you're interviewing Nairo after he wins his round 1, it's kind of just like, oh, well, like, how'd that go? And it's just like, well, I mean, like, I expected to do that. Like, I'm really good at this game. You know what I mean? Kind of just, it like, I just felt like it was unnecessary. And that was like the general feedback I saw from Twitter. And like I said, not to like knock on ESA or anything, I'm glad that they're willing to take these risks and find out what people want. You know what I mean?
I have to admit that the whole interview, like after everything, was kind of like a salt on the wound to some players. Like it's like, oh, I lost to Nairo because they were gonna win, and then they get interviewed for it. It's like fantastic. Not only did I lose, but I gotta have to watch an interview how I lost and why I lost, and the other guy gets it. I thought that was really good. To go back to what you said, the production value, I thought it was really, really good. I myself am a huge fan of the Overwatch League. I watch it like as much as possible whenever I get the chance. Aside from looking at my regular VODs to make sure my commentaries around, but I really like the analyst desk, and I was really happy to see you guys around too, and to do that as well. Especially because I look at the talent and I see that they're willing to do something that was incorporated once and then try to do it a little more often. I think it's really good that, like you said, they take a lot of risks, and sure, from a standpoint, it might be a little bit questionable, but the risks are worth taking because no one has ever done it at that point. No one has had the production level to do those kinds of risks at all, actually, I would say. So it's good that they see that, oh, hey, we have the ability to do this now. We should just do it because that's, we have that ability now. Let's do the risk. Maybe people won't like it, but it's a risk worth taking. And like I sat next to Gpik during the whole thing, and we talked about it, how they have 3 different streams going on, and from the spectator standpoint, it's amazing. Like I don't have to wait 5 minutes. I could just sit on my seat and watch, Nairo versus Leo, and then switch over, watch Leo versus Charlie, and then switch over again and watch another match. Like it's so good to see that instant action. I'm sure though, from the stream point of view though, it is a little weird. Like, oh, this was going on, and you guys didn't have a side stream for it. I'm sure they'll take that feedback into consideration. They're definitely looking. This is their first time doing that big of a production, that I'm sure they're gonna look at everything and say, okay, we need to change this, need to change that, all that stuff.
I think part of the difference between those two audiences, the ones that are fine with just like removing all the downtime, and the one that are a bit mad about the stream switching, is that like it's how core of an audience member you are. Like the really casual audience is just tuning in on Twitch and just kind of chilling for the day. They just want to see some Smash Brothers. They want to see people getting wrecked and stuff, right? So they're kind of fine with it going from place to place. But if you're like a really hardcore member, or like a top player that wasn't able to make it out this weekend, you want to see the entire set. You want to see all the steps of conditioning that happen, all the stage picks and bans that happen. So if you only get to see a set starting game 3 onward, like you're missing so much of that context, and it can be really frustrating for that group. So it's more, I think it's a question of which side ESA wants to court more in the future.
Yeah, I agree. I think I mean, we said it like it's kind of like a broken record at this point today, but yeah, the production was just, oh my god, it was over the roof. It was Hollywood, not in a bad way. Not to say that it's bad. It was Hollywood in a way that's the production level that because I live right next door to it, that I see at the Blizzard Arena. That's borderline the same level of production. So I'm glad that they understand that and they see that. I'm happy to know that they're looking at that in general. I think the only complaint that I could ever actually say is the venue was cold. I felt that I was in the Arctic freeze, man. I was freezing. I had a jacket. I was trying to huddle up next to my buddy. It was like I was freezing. I was cold. A lot of people, even the pro players, said like it's kind of cold in here.
We saw a lot of pro players wearing their hoodies on stream and stuff like over their jerseys because of that. Yeah, it was definitely freezing.
Yeah, Fallen had his hand warmers on and everything. It was insane. I really but yeah, I think that venue is gonna be. I don't know how much of a staple it'll be. I hope we continue to say it as a staple. I'm hoping that at some point, even ESA and even the Evo team will look for some sort of collaboration to have that venue. Yeah, I think it'll be amazing to have them both. I know Evo has their own thing, like hey, we want to put Evo in the arena, and that's the number one spot. But I can see ESA doing some kind of Evo-esque event at some point in the future, and I think these are just the baby steps they're taking to do that. And it's really interesting that, like I said, Smash Bros. Is such a big thing for us, as commentators, as players. And it's a game that we really love. And now that we're seeing Nintendo starting to walk into the esports venture with it, even if they fail or if they just don't do much with it, it's good to know that it is in good hands. It is in the hands of people who see what it could be and what it is and start to slowly improve it a lot more. And
Yeah, and like the last thing I just want to close up my topic with is just Smash Masters League in general. It's really cool because we had the SoCal circuit, the 2G circuit last year, which was really cool. I think it started branching out. Like after that, it kind of showed like a circuit like that can work. So then now ESA is going to try and do like this worldwide circuit, which is really cool. Obviously the 2G circuit was very limited to people like more so West Coast. If you're like in Vegas, Arizona, NorCal, or even like just like close by West Coast, you drive, or it would just be like a pretty cheap plane ticket. But for a lot of the East Coast players, it's a lot more resources. So obviously like West Coast had the edge there in terms of like how much tournaments they're going to and stuff like that. So I'm really glad Smash Masters League is going to try and go even farther, and go worldwide with this, and kind of have like certain tournaments under the league, and you kind of get points, and then you one big finale kind of thing. So pretty similar to the 2G circuit, but just more so spread out and worldwide. More spread out opportunity for everyone else. And yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting, and I'm glad they're taking that step.
Yeah, I agree. I think one of those things that I really like about what they're doing with it is that like you said, SoCal kind of had the edge with that originally, and it was really, really cool that SoCal as an edge. We finally get. I mean, for a while when I first started watching a lot of tournaments, I used to wonder like, where are all the big tournaments? I remember to only see like the big house, the main big melee tournaments. Most of them are never really in SoCal. Actually, to be honest, I don't see many big melee tournaments here in SoCal, and I was always questioning like when Smash 4 comes around, how are we going to do that? Like, where are going to be the big tournaments in SoCal? I hope in order for me to go to the big ones, I don't have to always travel far away. And it's good that ESA said, hey, you know what? For this year, we'll test it, see how it does, see how it works. And then, if we see the results and they're good and people are willing to come out, to SoCal for an event, that means people are willing to probably travel the world, for other several events. And I think it's kind of like testing the waters, I would say. Slowly but surely just testing a little bit. You don't have to always do it, as a risk. But it's kind of saying like, okay, now that the circuit is over, we can start pretty much what is essentially a Capcom Pro Tour. But it's instead of course, it's an esports arena. So I think that's really, really cool. I'm excited to see what they're going to do with all the other events around the world. And I think that's really cool. I'm really excited to see actually the one in China. I believe it's the one they're having as well.
Yeah, I don't know. I wish that they announced what the dates are for all of the events, because I'm really curious for some of these. Especially, China is one I'm looking at, an excuse to go there.
Yeah, I agree. I hope the one thing I hope they do take into feedback, and if they ever watch this video, maybe just a slightly more communication with us. I think they're really good with their communication. I think they're really good job with it as well. But I know that we had like a Monday tournament that was supposed to happen around MSM to help people go to the ESA in Vegas, and I think they get like a free flight and a free stay over there, and then that didn't happen because of lack of noticement. So I know they're going to be looking at some like feedback for sure, but I hope just a slight more communication. Not to bash them, I think they do a really good job, but I really want to see just a little more communication with us to let us know like, hey, the one in China is happening, and we're doing this with that. And I'm curious to see the esports arena in China too. I'm actually hoping they're all themed, because the one in Vegas is like kind of like it's got this big production theme. So I'm hoping the one in China has a nice Chinese theme to it as well. It's a really good way to separate them, I think.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess now we'll be going into your topic, Vance.
Yeah. So my topic is it's a little loaded. I don't want to bash anyone, and I apologize if anybody thinks I'm bashing them particularly. I think it's a topic that I've had with a few friends of mine, and I think I've always questioned this topic. It's we're going to be looking at one player in specific, but in terms of it all, I wanted to ask the question, and of course you guys are here. Korean, you have Void living with you, and he's been sponsored by, of course, by GSM. He's been sponsored by 2GG. He's been now sponsored by CLG. I wanted to talk about why some players possibly don't get sponsored. We have a player to name as a good example is the Buzz. The Buzz is I can only call him Mr. Consistency. He's super powerful. Top 8, he's never gone really below anything top 8 throughout Smash 4's history. And yet here we are at what is essentially the apex, the end of, or potentially the end of Smash 4. And the man has only been sponsored by essentially one team, and that's Renegades. And I think it's a possibility that some of these players who don't get picked up by a team is quite possibly because they're not that marketable. I think when a lot of sponsors look for teams and players to pick up, I think it all comes down to markets. I think a really good idea to put out there for you guys is, we look at Anti. Anti is sponsored by Immortals. It's a pretty big name, especially here in SoCal because they're part of it. I believe they're part of it. And he's sponsored by them. And I think one of those things that make Anti so to be picked up by a team is because look at his Twitter. The man is marketable. He markets himself. So I think that's one of those factors that lead into why some players, you look at the Buzz. I mean, he's kind of like a small, no, I wouldn't say he's a meme, but like we all kind of joke about him because he tries to do things, but they just come out very very wah wah, and not as big as, like, for an example, when we saw that Void video of you and Void. Like, if I were a potential sponsor, if I were Echo Fox, I'd be like, yo, that's my next guy. That is my next guy. He has a story. He has a coach. He is someone who is marketable to us, not in a bad way, but like I can see Void, part of Echo Fox, at some point, because they're looking at a player like that, somebody who has a personality versus the Buzz. Most of the people that are here in SoCal kind of think of him as the lame weeaboo, So I want to know what you guys think. Why some players don't get picked up by a team?
Okay, so there's so many factors. There's where you live.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of Japanese players, they're incredibly talented, very good. And it's hard to sponsor a Japanese player because if you think about how far they are from all the tournaments, a lot of these big tournaments are in America. Just any, like, your flights are going to start stacking up in terms of prices when you're flying someone that far away. So distance or location is a very key factor. Even like play style, I think Void is like just to bring up a player, Void is very fun to watch. He has flashy combos. He pushes off stage really hard. People just like watching that. I honestly feel like the Buzz has gotten a lot more flashier, and I don't think he's doing it to be flashy. He's just, the metagame is progressing to the point, like, how hard can you push disadvantage? How hard can you punish? And you watch the Buzz at the last PAX, and he like destroyed people. Like, he was going off stage. He was doing many up airs to people. Like, his neutral is really safe, but he's starting to get to the point where he like knows he has to start pushing disadvantage really, really hard because that's what like the meta's turning into. So I think in that term, he's starting to be a lot more exciting to watch. He's starting to do a lot more Luma desyncs. So just playstyle wise, that's really important. But like asterisk, there's before, the Buzz was known as like the most defensive player, and there's nothing wrong with being defensive, but usually people don't, like, they find it boring. They find, defensive timeout Sonic boring to watch, or it's just like, that's just people's opinions. You know what I mean? So having that playstyle like kind of mounted on him is some people might just like not want to watch him because he has like this defensive stigma or whatnot. And yeah, I mean, that's unfortunate because I think he's an amazing player, and his defense, I really like watching his defense, but someone that doesn't have like the same understanding or like a high level understanding of the game, they won't like look at that and appreciate it. They'll be like, oh, he's just like standing there, you know what I mean? Or he's like doing nothing. But like it's just hard because when just pretty much if you don't have like that a level of understanding of the game, like you might not be able to appreciate that kind of play. I think those are like most of the factors. Did you have anything to add on that, Gpik?
Nothing too much. I mean, I feel like you definitely have a lot more experience in this area than me. I just have like further sort of questions and stuff. Like part of it like could also be in terms of whether player expectations for how much they're worth align with how much sponsors think they're worth. Because like I'm pretty sure DeBuzz has gotten offers at this point, right? There's no way he's like this high up and he hasn't gotten offers. The question is, none of the offers are really worth his own investment, right?
Right.
So like there's also the question of like how to make sure that your esteemed cost of yourself actually matches to how much people are willing to put into you. That's a question I have no idea how to answer. One thing that also stood out to me is we were talking earlier about production value and commentary and stuff, and I think this is something that gets brought up every now and then, and the role that we sort of play in this. Like DeBuzz, I'm sure he has a story. Everybody has a story, but like not everybody gets a video the way that Void does, putting his heart out there for everyone to see. Like, I have any of us really gotten the chance to talk to DeBuzz that in depth? Maybe he also has something going on in his own life, and that's where I'd like to see like. Hopefully ESA keeps pushing out these sort of like mini documentaries on players, especially the free agent ones, and we can get a sense to see what they're up to. Because like I know, for example, Cosmos is a free agent, and like he moved to the middle of Ohio to join the Smash Loft and stuff. He's putting his whole life into the Smash basket. There's definitely an interesting story there. There always is when a player is willing to do that. It's more a matter of us finding a way to push that to the front, or also finding a way to push like defensive play to the front without making it seem just dry, but like kind of explaining it, dramatizing it in a way that says like this is a different personality. Not everybody is aggro. Not everybody wants to put everything on the line. And I think some players will actually resonate with, not some players, some viewers will resonate with that. Like, you know what? Yeah, I'm always conservative. I always do the minimum bet in blackjack. You know what? I like to buzz. It's a matter of how we tell their stories and making sure we recognize that it's kind of scary because like on the one hand it's kind of nice to have villains and stuff because that creates drama really easily, but if you paint somebody as a villain as one-dimensionally as that, you hurt their own visibility for getting sponsored and stuff. So being able to recognize how to create compelling stories in the middle of a set without dragging anybody down unless they're deliberately trying to play themselves as the villain, like that's something that takes a very nimble hand. Some of the Bayo mains do want to be the villain. Some of them do. I don't think all of them do.
Yeah. and I kind of like that analogy that you have. I think the villain, and I look at the melee scene because that was the scene that inspired me to do commentary and things like this. The melee scene was at an interesting standpoint, I think. You can't really quote me on this. I think it was at a standpoint where we were watching essentially the top 5 battle each other all the time, consistently, every day. And we asked the question, they're going to be the top 5 forever. Who is among them to stand against them? And we thought nobody. You know, there were some names tossed around. We're like, no, not that one. Analysts, everybody, commentary, you can name it. No, but then we had Leffen, who pretty much said, these 5 gods are all frauds. I should be the only one. And there can only be one. There's no such thing as 5 gods. There's no such thing as there's 5 of us. No, there can only really be one. In reality, you guys can be number 4, you can be number 3, but it doesn't matter unless you're number 1. And then Plup later on came out and said, okay, you know what, Leffen, you might be number 6, but I'm going to be number 7. And it started this timeline where we now have, like, it's kind of fun to watch Melee because there is this storyline consistently going on that people like to tune in. They like to see where are these, you know, essentially now, in a sense, 7 gods going, you know, and how they battle amongst each other. It's kind of like when we had, you know, Battle of the Gods here in SoCal, the one by Red Bull. So it's really good to see that even be a storyline and even come full-fledged into a tournament. I think what was great about, you know, the ESA putting out that video of Korean and Void is now we know a player like Void, he has a storyline. And now people are going to be very interested to see, Korean and Void and say, okay, these are their storylines. When I watch Smash from that one, they might be looking at that storyline to see where Void is going next, to see how far he pushes his character. And not only that, I mean, as we move on to Smash 5, essentially, a lot of people are going to be interested in these players' storylines. I think a lot of people really even like villains because if we think about it, they're kind of fun to have in the scene in a sense. We had we look at Civil War. That was pretty much a full-fledged version of it. And I like that. And it was really, really cool. And then we had, we had Zenyu versus K9 for a hot minute,
Oh, yeah.
that was a pretty hot minute, but I thought that was really cool. And now, I mean, in Smash 4, I'm not saying they're really bad people. I'm sure they're really nice guys. But, like, people look at Zack, Tweak, and Mistake as kind of the villains because, people don't like the Bayo mains mostly. I personally like watching Bayo. I think she's fun. But, some people paint them as the villain because they don't like to see Nairo lose to Mistake when they know he's, a player like this. People don't like to see Void, lose to this player because he can get it. So now they kind of put these three people as like some kind of a villain at some point, I think that's really crucial in terms of viewership. This whole story arc, these stories that every player has, and I think that in the future will also dictate how things go on in terms of viewership. In a sense, not all the way, not 100%, but like I think a lot of people are gonna look at that like, hey, I'm here to watch Larry play, but I'm also to see how his story plays out this tournament. Things like that.
Yeah.
I
definitely agree.
I mean, from what literal I see of Melee, I do agree that it's, as a most casual fan, it's fun to see finally that Pantheon breaking apart and showing its cracks, especially at Genesis 5, where like, oh, Plup actually just won the event. That was nuts to me going into it. So like, that is fun when you have these little events happening. Same with Civil War and stuff. And I think we're still in flux from the event of Zero leaving the game. We're not even sure where the sides are drawn anymore. It's just chaos right now. But I think that's a point of interest for myself in watching majors right now. And it's something that I definitely see people playing up, and I think that's good that we're playing up like the chaos that Smash 4 is in at the moment.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting, like we've all been saying, it's interesting to draw the line. Like now, back then we were kind of able to have a seeding and have a predicted bracket, like how things would play out, but now that Zero's gone, or if X player doesn't join in or X player is not here, that changes the landscape entirely. And I think that's really interesting. I'm pretty sure, Zero's thinking about like, okay, I gotta come back for Smash 5. I've only been in retirement. I'm pretty sure he's enjoying his retirement now, being a streamer and stuff like that. But I'm pretty sure he's like, okay, I have about X amount of months before I can, go back to the game and start doing things again. I think as and that's kind of one of the reasons why I felt that Zero was one of the first people to be sponsored. He was a big name, and in a sense, early on in the early days, he was kind of the face of Smash 4. He won the Invitational, and that was the biggest thing he had. He won the Invitational, and now once you win that Invitational, you want to see where his story goes. I remember watching that Invitational at E3, and I was like, I kind of want to see where this guy's going to go after the Invitational. Some players fall off, they never do a thing again, not to bash him, but like we look at John Numbers, who won the first Nintendo World Championship, and some people wanted to follow his story, and they found out, hey, John Numbers is a speedrunner, and he's, a Smash 4 player. So I think that creates storylines. I think that helps players become, in a sense, marketable. I think as we look forward at it, a lot of companies and a lot of teams want to find players that are, like you said, it's all about, how far someone is. I think the Japan players have a really tough time. I mean, shout outs to 2GG for sponsoring, Komori Kiri, because that's a name to have. Not only that, I mean, you have to, consistently find ways to bring the man over here. And not only that, I hope as we go forward, teams are going to be looking at players like the Buzz and say, what, maybe it goes above and beyond his personality. It's about his play style, or maybe how he does in bracket, because that's something they should also look at. I think, I don't know, I lost my train of thought, but I think they're going to be looking at stuff like that too, the analytics of it. I kind of also hope, in a sense, they sponsor, people like us, the casters as well. I'm not trying to say like, we're worth more than players, but like if I were like, I'm not trying to, blush you guys or anything. But if I were a betting man, if I were, Echo Fox, I'd see Korean and be like, okay, Korean had his video at the ESA. Korean was at the analyst desk. And I'd see Gpik has done several events. How can I get them? Like, we look at Teffikits. Teffikits kind of started off as a commentator, and now he's even a coach. So I see Korean in the same way, like that. Not necessarily following the same path, but I'm saying, like, he is a coach, he's a player, he's a commentator. He is worth a lot. I should pick up. Echo Fox would be like, or in this case CLG. So I want to pick up Korean for Void because he complements him in that sense. They're kind of duos. It's kind of like how we saw Beefy Smash Dudes sponsor, Aardvark and Elegant. They sponsor them as a team. So I like things like that. I hope they look at, us, who are also help the game out as well in terms of that.
Mm-hmm. Commentators get that guaranteed screen time, man. Like that. That's. I was talking to EE about it, and he was like, if I'm scheduled to cast a top 8, no matter, like, EE doesn't have to, like, fight through a bracket to get to top 8. Like, he's going to be commentating all of top 8, like, on that day. Like, he's scheduled to do it. Like, he doesn't have to outplay someone to do it. He's just there. And he's going to be talking the whole time. He's going to be on the stream that whole solid. He's going to be on stream more than the guy that gets first place at that tournament.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a thing to think about. Of course, people are more prone to just, like, follow the players because, like, they're doing the hype stuff. But, commentators do play a big role in terms of just, like, what the viewers are seeing, and even, like, what Gpik was saying, like, the way they portray players. And that's why, like, and even at the Vegas event, when they're asking me, like, oh, how do you feel about, like, Void losing to, like, this Bayonetta? And it's just like, at the end of the day, I can't say, like, and I don't even want to say that, like, oh man, like, F Bayo, like, that was worse. Like, like that. I don't feel that way because at the end of the day, like, they did really well, and to beat Void is, like, no easy thing to do. So it's like I still give, like, mad props. And, like, for example, when they talked to me about Zach, I was like, essentially Void missed one of the fairs and Zach reversed the situation and got the stock. Like, that's really key that he did that, and he just ended the game because, Sheik had rage and blah, blah, and I can, like, break down the whole situation. But at the end of the day, like, Zach played really well. And I want to highlight the fact that he played well, not the fact that he just plays Bayo and he, like, BS the stock or whatever. Like, that's, like, a really horrible way to look at it. And I don't want to paint Captain Zach, like, as a player that's, like, like, I don't want to paint any negativity on him because he works really hard to get where he's at. So no matter what, no matter if I would rather have X player win over X player, like, I want to paint them all in a very positive outlook because I know they all work hard to get where they're at.
Yeah.
And it's not just that, but it's also, like, if you think from a viewer perspective, right? You're tuning into the Smash tournament and somebody's trash talking one of the players on the mic or one of the characters saying, oh, this character is busted. Does that make that person want to keep watching? Like, no. You want to talk up everybody. You want to show everybody's best side because that elevates the quality of the game, and that makes people more invested in what the outcome of that game is. So, like, I think trash talking, like, in that sense, has no place on, like, any sense of the production value at all.
Like, literally, there's no pro to it. There's, like,
absolutely. You maybe get, like, a little bit of emotional heat off your chest, and maybe some, like, Switch chat goons are gonna say, like, oh yeah, he's speaking the truth, but, like, you're hurting everybody so much more by doing that.
Definitely not worth.
Yeah, I agree. I think trash talk is. It's good to keep it if we're doing, like, a side event, where we do, like, a salty sweet.
Or if it's, like, literally Civil War, or it's just, like, the whole point is, like, half the community hates the other one for this weekend.
Right.
But, like, aside from that, no, get that stuff out of there. It's Gunblade had a really good saying about that, which is, like, the best way to make yourself look good is to make everybody else look good, and then it will just reflect back onto you. And that's, like, the same way to apply, like, so much in terms of commentary and stuff.
Yeah. I agree, and I think that's really, really good. That's something smart that I never really saw it that way until you and EE put it out. But it is those things where, like, we get guaranteed screen time. Like, I never really thought about it. I mean, people mostly see me, at Hat, at MSM, and not today, of course, because today I'm actually gonna watch a movie, but that's not the point. But people see us a lot, and they recognize our faces. When I think of NorCal, the person that comes up to my head coincidentally is Gpik. I'm like, okay, yeah, Gpik, NorCal. That's how I associate those two things. When I think of Korean, I think of Void and SoCal, an analyst and things like that. A lot of people need to we also need to understand, I think, as commentators, I mean, we do, but other people have to understand, commentators also help elevate the game. And I think trash talking kind of downplays the game, because if a commentator were to say, oh, that was BS because Bayo did this and this and that, then no one's going to want to watch the game, because it's going to be like, oh, Smash 4 meta is just Bayo doing Bayo. And that's so boring. I think what turned me off, I can't remember what game it was. I think it might have been like Gears of War, because I was a huge fan of it. But when that had that esports scene, I stopped playing Gears of War and watching Gears of War, because I think a commentator even said like, oh, I like the meta is just shotguns. And that is true. I mean, into that game. But that made me go, I don't want to watch a game where two guys just dash around the entire screen and shoot each other in the face with a shotgun. That's not entertaining to me. Versus like, you and Korean going on to say, like Gpik saying, that was a perfect execution by, Tweak doing this and this and that. And then someone says like, oh, okay, Bayo isn't just this character. Bayo is more than that. And even for Captain Zach, it must be tough, because he has to fight the haters too. It's really tough to, say like, hey, I am with this top player, but I also got to fight the haters, because they all hate me. They all see me as, the guy who in a sense is getting carried. They don't see me as someone who is doing X amount of things and calculating things. And the people who kind of help the viewers see that is us. We say why Captain Zach might have done this thing, why they went for it. I think it's pretty well said, Corinne. Just to add on to that.
Mm-hmm. It actually reminds me of a bit of Melee commentary I saw at one point, where, Fox is the best character in Melee, right? But the one thing that stood out to me is it was a set that like Scar was commentating, and he would say things just like, wow, Fox is super good, right? He'd be hyped about how good this character is, as opposed to being like mad, like, oh, this character can rob a stock at 10% by shining them off stage. You'd be like, oh my God, Shine's such a good move, But like just having that genuine enthusiasm for like the strength of characters does so much to sell it beyond just anything else, Like you're saying, like, oh, it's just shotgun, as opposed to like, oh my God, these guys like with these shotguns and stuff. It's so great to see so much, like, talking up as a fan makes things adds like charisma and so much more to the presentation than anything else. You can skate by a lot of balance issues if you just have that right presentation. If you highlight the fun things about it, as opposed to like being all down in the dumps that other things aren't as powerful.
Yeah, I highly agree with you, man. I think that was really. Man, you guys are amazing. But this is probably one of my favorite things about you guys. But that's such a good well way to say it. I think it is that. I think when I try to do commentary for Bayo, I myself like to say, okay, Bayo is a character that does these things, but she also has these flaws. And I think helping players also understand, Bayo has flaws. That's why we don't see X person go for ABK at the ledge, because Bayo might be punished or things like that. And I think presentation of characters and even players is super key as we move on, towards the later life of Smash as a whole. I think we do a pretty good job at that. Yeah, I think that's all we have to say about that topic. We kind of went off a little bit interesting.
Sorry.
Commentators tend to derail into commentary, I think.
Yeah. And I think even Smash 4 commentary as a whole it's pretty amazing, I think. I'm not trying to bash any other scene or anything like that. I love commentary for Smash Brothers in general. But, when we look at Smash 4, it was kind of interesting. Someone pointed out to me, EE was doing a PlayerUnknown's Battleground event, a Smash 4 commentator doing that. So I think it's really cool that, we can also do other things and branch out. I hope they start seeing us that way. And I spoke to Strides, and he said a lot of the other stream people and people who do events, they look at different commentators. Sometimes you may see EE do a different game, you might see Gpik do a whole different thing altogether. And I think that skill of being commentary and having that screen time, we kind of are in a sense a celebrity, because people hear our voice and see our face, I would say the same amount as the players. If not the same, relatively the same.
Definitely hear our voices more.
Yeah. And I kind of like, and it's kind of cool that they can, relate to like, oh, I know this voice. This is so and so. So I think that's pretty cool, I think, about commentary. But moving on to our third and most likely our third and final topic. Gpik, your topic for this week.
Yes. So I am very interested with, so basically, in short, it's the rule set, right? Which is, Smash 5 is coming out, which means it's time for us to make from the ground up an entirely new competitive rule set, assuming Nintendo doesn't take a super hands-on approach with supporting the esports scene and telling us like these are the tournament rules, follow them, otherwise like we don't care about your event. Which, given the fact that Nintendo tends to prefer to take as much of a hands-off approach as they can, I'm assuming they're not going to do that. But looking back at Smash 4, I'm curious to see what sort of lessons we can apply for Smash 5's rule set, because there were a lot of moments in Smash 4's rule set where people point to and say like, we decided this too soon, or we did this experiment for too long, or we were too stubborn to do this or this, right? Like in the very beginning, at first we went to 2 stocks, right, as the length of the game. Automatically, and some of that was just the reactions to For Glory and stuff. But like when we look at today's Punish game, by and large, 2 stocks is crazy short. Like even DeBuzz is going in hard when he has these advantage states and taking people's stocks super, super early. And like as a spectator, yeah, that's really exciting to see. But like as players and stuff, having half of your in-game life gone from like single punishes and stuff, that's terrifying. That's absolutely terrifying. And a lot of players just saying like, even now, like they're saying like, hey, maybe we should look at 3 stock. Like Texas is still doing it, and it seems to be working pretty well for them. I think Europe also does 3 stock as well.
Mm-hmm.
So there are pockets of the meta that are saying that like, hey, this is still a viable strategy. But then we also had instances like customs, where like in order for us to experiment with customs, we had them on for like 5 months because we talked Evo into doing it, right? But I think the one place I come from when it comes down to it is I would very much like to see the lesson that Smash 5 takes in our community is wanting to be more agile with our rule set, and sort of wanting to experiment, like not just for like one tournament, one local, like, one-off time, but like really experiment with different rule sets. Because like as Sakurai put it, we might not be game designers, but when you're balancing a rule set, you are doing balancing, you are doing play testing. Yeah. We need like any rule change you make does change the meta. That's part of the reason why this Lilat debate never actually ends, is because removing Lilat fundamentally changes the meta for a large number of matchups. And being able to be willing to make these like small changes to see what the actual effect is and whether that's a change we even want to have, I think that's something I'd really like to see in Smash 5, because like it took us outrageously long to really start banning Cloud in doubles, right? Like we knew Cloud was stupid in doubles for a really, really long time, but like now it finally started happening, and I don't want to see that happen again, where like we very clearly see something wrong is happening, but like we're so entrenched, like there's no clear mechanism for change at all, that like we never even get to try a world without Cloud in doubles, which we're doing now.
Yeah.
So I'm really curious to hear what you guys' thoughts are about that.
And I'm glad you actually asked that question. I mean, both of your topics are pretty great. I think my topics is a little different, but I'm glad you guys asked your topics. And I'm also happy you guys are here on the show, because you guys are both coincidentally originally from 2 different regions. We have NorCal and the Hawaii region. And I'm really glad, this question is also being asked. Here in SoCal, I think we were a little weird. To quote my good friend S2H, a really good friend of mine, a great guy, he loves doubles. He loves that meta so much. Every tournament he gets a chance to do doubles, he enters with the good boy KY and he tries to cause upsets. Biggest fear? Double Cloud. And I think it was really heartbreaking to see him, so ecstatic about doubles and love doubles and just want to play doubles. But he knows that you can only get so far, and then congratulations, you got to fight Como and Leo. Not to bash them or anything, they are good players. But you got to fight Como and Leo and then just lose. And then you got to fight another possible double Cloud team and then drop out. Like, it's such a sad thing. I don't want to bash them because I think they do a great job, and I'm not trying to call them out or anything. I'm just trying to say like this is kind of, I think, maybe one of the things that might have scared us when the community had a big outrage against Bayo, and we tried to find a way to ban her or even remove her from certain tournament events. PGR kind of had a say in it, saying like, if you do that, we're not going to allow you to essentially have a sanctioning for your tournaments, for the big ones. And that kind of like, okay, never mind. Yeah, you guys can keep Bayo. That's fine. And it also discourages, those top players, because top players, make up the PGR as well and assign those points. I think it was the fear to possibly even experiment. I think early in the lifespan, when I spoke to several TOs, I remember saying like, and I said it for the wrong reasons, But I remember saying, like, I think 2 stocks is dumb because you look at a character like Ganon and you look at a character like Bowser who can just obliterate your stocks with these suicide moves, and then you're pretty much promoting those 2 characters to just do these moves because it's a 2 stock format, because they can just easily get away with it. And I remember saying, someone told me, no, Smash, in the early days at least, Smash 4 is too slow. And I was like, you look at Brawl, Brawl was too slow. Brawl was a snooze fest. It's just Meta Knight doing upper, and trying to confuse me for like 5 minutes, and then he finally goes in to take a stock in like 30 seconds. Brawl to me was a snooze cruise. It really was. I couldn't enjoy Brawl because it was such a, one of my favorite sets of all time is, coincidentally a Brawl set, and it is between Mewtwo King and Ceylon when he wins ZSS versus Meta Knight. But that's an hour set. That is an hour. You look at Smash 4, the most I've ever seen so far is like 18, maybe half an hour, and that's probably because there's bracket resets. And even then, that's just 2 stocks. I think as we go forward and we look back at Smash 4, I hope we look to understand that these things should happen and just do it. Just do it for a tournament. I think what everyone is scared of is player turnout, because we know that in SoCal specifically, if you do not follow the rule set, your tournament is pretty much unsanctionable. You do not get your points.
Mm-hmm.
You do not get to be part of, you do not get PR or anything like that. And it kind of sucks because you can't really see a 3-stock format in SoCal. You can't see what I want to see. Pretty much me have, their custom moveset, or Palutena have their custom moveset, specifically because those characters would be so much better without it, but we don't allow that. Because, the majority of the community agree. It's like, hey, if this player is not going to attend because it's not unsanctioned, then that's not worth it. I think going forward, I hope we look to experiment slightly more. I don't know, Korean, what do you have to say?
It's tough because it's like, I even feel the ban on Cloud was kind of just like, well, F it, the game's about to die because the next game's coming out. Like, F it, let's try banning Cloud and see what happens. Like, it didn't seem like it was like a talked out thing. And I completely understand the situation in terms of like, if you look at results, yes, Cloud is very dominant. So, will it up the viewers? We don't know. Like, I think it's worth experimenting with. I just hate the idea of like, the reason why it happened. I feel like the reason why it happened is because we're like, F it, the game's gonna die. Let's YOLO this and let's do it. Like, that's what I feel like it's happening. I mean, I don't know for sure, but it just seems like the fall in that place. So I hope we don't make decisions like that because of that. I really, is it justified? Kind of, yes. And I don't think it's even double Cloud. Like, I feel like the just Cloud, if you're just looking at it in terms of results, not a lot of teams was double Cloud in like a top 8. It was pretty much just Como and Leo, and they've won double tourneys going Fire Emblem characters. Like, these guys are just clearly the best doubles players. Like, I think it's not double Cloud that they're the best. They're just the best doubles player, and Leo is like hands down the best doubles player in the world. Like, easily by a huge margin. Like, this guy is amazing at double by a large margin. So it's like, it's not just Cloud. So I feel like getting rid of double Cloud doesn't make sense. If you're going to just get rid of Cloud, you just ban Cloud and you see what happens. And I'm glad, we'll see what happens in Smash and Splash. We'll see if like there's a crazy surge of doubles entrants, if there's crazy amounts of viewerships that gets upped because they're not watching Cloud finishing touch people at 50. I'm glad they're experimenting it, and like I said, the results show that the meta is getting stagnant, and he's been out for what, 2 years now, and ever since release he's been broken in doubles. Like, I won't say broken, but his results were very consistent in doubles, and it didn't really change. In fact, I think as the meta went on, there was more Clouds in top 8 as the meta developed.
It got more saturated. I think the number is like 70% of top 8 teams and majors have a Cloud on them.
70%. That's
big.
Yeah, that's the reason I'm like, this is actually a bit of a problem at this point. We're like, there were teams that could succeed without him. I remember one of the big ones that I really like is Sue and Ken succeed without him. But like, they have a very clear game plan against a Cloud, and they have Ken, who is historically very strong against Cloud on their team. Like, you need to have specific battle plans going into doubles for Cloud himself if you don't have a Cloud. And like, it's kind of nuts where it's either have a Cloud or be ready to kill Cloud. And like that one character can control a setting that up until this point was actually ridiculously varied in terms of character variety, like even beyond singles. Like having known a lot of people that are, you know, NorCal loves dubs, right? Knowing a lot of people that are hella into doubles and finding that like their passion for it has completely nosedived in the past 2 years. I know Cloud mains that are saying, yeah, Cloud should be banned in doubles. Like that's it's something that I'm happy to see at least tested to see whether or not like it can bring that spark back for a lot of doubles players. Like I remember I miss seeing Team CLG, like Void and Nakat was another great team that I like seeing. And then they kind of started falling off as Cloud became more and more dominant. I remember Void saying something to the effect of like, it just feels like we have to play so perfectly on point because if we make a mistake at 60, we die, but the other team doesn't get blown up nearly as soon for us. And that's the sort of pressure that Cloud keeps putting on people. So that's where I'm falling on it.
Yeah. I agree. I think in terms of risks, like just continuing off this doubles tangent, this is a really loaded topic too. I think it's also the players. I think it's up to us, the players as well, you know, to also support that. You know, support the doubles because like in this, it's a joke now in the community. Like, Smash 4 doubles meta is dead. You know, nobody in SoCal. We have free dubs, for Christ's sakes. Free dubs, and nobody enters. Nobody.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
It's really
MSM
bad.
MSM offers free doubles, and the winning team gets free entry into singles.
Yeah.
And they don't do it anymore because literally nobody enters.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was that bad for you guys.
Fire and Dice does free dubs, and you get store credit, which is you can stack your store credit for Fire and Dice. Like, that's ridiculous. I thought that was the most broken thing for like a hot minute. We pretty much had a solid dubs at Fire and Dice. And the only people winning Fire and Dice dubs was Pluto and Zenu because nobody really wanted to enter much. And, you know, for a hot minute, they were just winning dubs. And because we just didn't enter as much. It's also up to us, you know, the players. And for you guys watching and even watching the VOD as well, it's up to us to support dubs. It's up to if we say we want dubs, we have to be there through thick and thin because it doesn't mean a word of anything if we say we miss dubs and we don't participate. I think Dubs Cloud banning is a little late. I'm one that's kind of 50-50. I felt that Dubs Cloud maybe should have been banned, but my counter argument to that is I can't remember who I spoke to with. Maybe it might have been a good friend of mine, but I remember he told me I can beat X player, but none of it matters to me none of it really matters unless I win the tournament because the person winning the tournament gets much more exposure, much more of this, much more of that. I can upset AC, Void, and Salem in the same tournament, but none of that really matters unless I win the tournament. And people winning the tournament will dictate a lot of things. We look and I feel that was an interesting pattern to say to me because when we saw Ally win Evo, here in SoCal, we had a random influx of Marios just show up. People were just picking Mario. Like, everybody was like, oh, Mario's the best character in the game. Pick him up Mario right now. I was like, okay, I mean, just because Ally won Evo, that's fine, I guess. When Salem won with Evo, again, everybody started saying, like, yo, let's ban Bayonetta. And we had a small influx of Bayonettas, you know, started coming to SoCal. You know, people starting to pick up Bayo, things like that. And when we see MK Leo and Como win dubs, we start saying, let's ban dubs. But in reality, they're probably the only two Clouds in dubs. In reality, and like you guys said, you know, they're just one of the main top 8 double Cloud teams. Everybody else has a different team comp.
And like I agree with Korean. They're by no means being carried by Cloud in doubles, right? Like they'll probably still win almost every doubles event they enter, even after, like, assuming that the Cloud ban like takes off and every major does it. I fully expect them to do just as well. I think it just comes from more like a stagnancy viewpoint, and it makes it more open as a format for more and more players. Because they're like, if you're an Olimar main, for example, this Cloud meta kind of wrecks hell all over you because like it's bad enough dealing with them in singles, and now dealing with them in doubles, it's just a complete massacre. That's the case for any character that like has trouble with Cloud. Then suddenly they're getting blown up for it really, really hard, and that's the main reason I'm looking forward to it. I don't think anybody is really being carried by him, at least not to the extent that people say. I think they're fully capable with other things, and I'd like to see that bigger variety in the meta as opposed to this optimal path of like day one Cloud being better than your lifetime main in doubles. Which is, like, it's sad that that's the case, but like that's where it's hard to, I guess it's hard for me to phrase it perfectly. I don't think it's like people are being frauded out by him, but like you can very much see the fact that there is definitely a solved answer. Play this character is removing a lot of the passion from it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I agree. Oh, what were we going to say, Korean? I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's just like even I feel like Cloud is the strongest character overall in a specific format. So pretty much we have two formats. I don't think Bales in single is as strong as Cloud in doubles.
I absolutely agree. Yeah.
Yes, and like Gpik said, you'll find a lot of success. And the thing about Cloud too is like he's very simple. So like your success rate is like you'll start seeing more success. Like you don't have to put in as much work, and that has like kind of nothing to do with it. But I guess that kind of does have something to do with it because of like that's the results you're gonna see, right? And Bayo hasn't been dominating the singles meta for 2 years. Now Bayo's starting to get optimized, but we still have to give time for the other top players that play other characters to counterplay and stuff like that. But as of recently, she's been a decent part of the meta, but she's still not like consistently winning everything. You just see a lot of her in top 8, which is like usually the first step. But we still need time for that to develop. But as of doubles, 2 years now, 70%, like that's a really, really big number. So it is quite clear that, like that's the kind of data I want to see presented. And then it's just like, okay, like let's go from here, like let's try some of these things out. And I'm really glad that, we are going to see some data now. We'll see how Smash and Splash does. I believe is it Gommel that's also doing the Cloud ban?
I think
Gommel, I think, is banning double Cloud. And Smash and Splash, I think, is single Cloud. I might be mistaken. I know one of them is doing one thing, one of them is doing the other.
Oh, okay, so one of them is banning double Cloud. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
But I mean, I feel like we can stray off of doubles because we can go on and on about doubles. But like, just back to the base topic of like rule sets, I really want to see like it's weird because if you think about it, if we had like developers on our side, like Nintendo support, we could be like, hey, like. Lylat, I don't think Lylat is a bad stage. I literally don't like. I think a lot of people don't like Lylat because it's like you literally can fall through it, and you've seen it happen in tourney. Like people have lost tournament sets over this mechanic. So Lylat would be completely fine to most people if you just change that aspect of it and just like essentially fix the stage. Delfino, Castle Siege, these stages would have probably been fine if you don't die off the top while it's transforming at like 20%. You know what I mean? Like. That would have been fine. And I think it was kind of stupid that we like at the beginning of Brawl we legalized a bunch of these stages, Castle Siege and Halberd being like the consistent ones going into Smash 4, and then at the beginning of Smash 4 we still legalized them, and that went on for almost a year, and then we're finally like, okay, like that's not okay. So if the stages are the same, I would not like I would like to see us like not let them be legal. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, okay, guys, it took us 3 games to figure it out, but like, we shouldn't do it. So like stuff like that. Or on the flip side, if we have like Nintendo support and be like, hey, like these stages could be like tournament legal. Could you like alter this? Or like a big consistent one I've heard a lot of people say is like the ability to turn off stage hazards. Like Halberd would probably be pretty like, the ceiling on Halberd is actually like kind of crazy low, but. I mean, we could like if hazards were turned off, I could see that being a stage part of the stage list if hazards were turned off. So if like we have like stuff like that, and there's ideas we can pitch to Nintendo that could benefit and give the competitive scene more variety, that would be really awesome. Yeah. Like that even goes with like balances and stuff too. But like another thing as well, I want to point out if we do go into Smash, so it's really hard if the meta is solidified and the rule set solidified as 2 stocks and you want to bump it up. I feel like bumping it down is a lot more realistic because when you bump it up, there's like now TOs have to calculate more time. Now when like viewership could get bored. I mean, in this day and age, most people like the general attention span is shorter. So when you bump something up, there's that threat. There's always that threat. But when you bump something down, it's like that threat's kind of not as big because it's reversed. You know what I'm saying? So I definitely feel like if we want to dabble, like if the question is like 2 or 3 stocks, I feel like if we start off with 3 stocks and start experiment, let's just start high. And then if there's a problem, then we can bump it down. Because I feel like doing it the reverse is just way, way harder.
The thought I have about that, like I do agree that's something to keep in mind, but the problem is our punish game also develops over time, right? Like 3 stock in the beginning of Smash 4 was probably too long because we didn't know any of our confirms and stuff. But like now 3 stock sounds a lot more reasonable because we're able to annihilate stocks. The only example I'm aware of the length actually being increased was a game that people get blown up super fast, which is Marvel 3. It used to be best 2 out of 3 was the standard format. And it got to the point where like sets were ending sub 2 minutes. Like people will be blown up that fast. So it ended up not even being that much of a sacrifice to say, you know what, let's just do best of 5 throughout the whole tournament. So I'm not saying like that's going to happen. We'll necessarily reach Marvel levels of punish game, but like I don't want us to see us close our minds off to that. So either experiment with a longer format, but be aware as we're experimenting that we don't know our punish games yet. There's no way we're going to be optimal at all. So if we're slightly too slow, let's assume it will get faster as time goes on. Or if we're going to be that knee-jerk about it's too slow, then we need to then say, okay, now it's getting too fast and be able to roll off the gas at the same time.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think my biggest, it's not even to say anything bad. I don't want to my biggest beef with I'm not gonna say that it's all their fault. I'm not, because it's not. I know it's not. I know they're just trying to do this. My biggest beef was essentially I was trying to tell SoCal TOs or some at the early days like, hey, I missed 3 stocks. Why can't we do 3 stocks? And they're like, oh, the game's too slow. And they were just saying like, what do you mean the game's too slow? Like, I feel that at the early days we should have been keen to say like, or even in the community, because we have Facebook communities and things like that, we should have put it to a community vote. What do you guys want? But I felt that people were just either not participant or not, the vocal minority wasn't there or things like that. I hope that as we move on to Smash 5, we're not afraid to experiment. We're not afraid to go, okay, we saw how fast Smash 4 was. Let's try 3 stocks. We'll try it. We'll try it for X amount of time. 3 months. Okay, meta's too slow. Okay, let's bump it down 2 stocks again, like Smash 4. All right, 3 stocks again in 3 months. No, meta actually ended up being better. Let's move it back up to 3 stocks. I think we should have had a test period where we publicly state, hey, we're changing the meta. Please, TOs adjust, things like that, see how it is, data gets fed in, and we continue to experiment. I think it was that. I think it was failure to experiment, failure to try and see different meta and formats. I think even in doubles, I thought that doubles was really interesting because there were some team comps that were broken or never, to quote one of the early days, Pac-Man Pika. That was a broken team comp that we had to, if it essentially had nerf, hold on, did I say something?
I'm not familiar with the super early days of Smash 4.
Okay,
what was Pac-Man Pika doing?
It was pretty much like Pika could feed Pac-Man enough for bucket, and that would be an instant KO.
No, you're thinking Game & Watch.
Game & Watch. Sorry.
Yeah,
I'm so sorry. I was like,
I'm so bad.
The Thunder, right? The
Thunder.
Yeah, the Thunder. Phil calls it. They specifically went in and coded Thunder. It didn't change the multiplier or anything. It just said this only fills 1 notch at a time. That was Nintendo's fix to that.
Yeah, and it was crazy. Like, that was a big thing. That was a comp that worked. And I remember at some point we had it banned because that comp was, wrong. That I thought was more interesting than, of course, banning Doubles Cloud is really good. We could finally see things happen more often. But I felt that comp and banning that specific comp was interesting. And, having different team comps work together in tangent, I think the experimentation in Smash 4 was very limited. I think we never really failed to say, hey, for 3 months we're going to allow, and we'll see it. I think after Evo, or we're going to see someone say, hey, for 3 months we're going to allow me customs and Palutena customs, because those characters never got that chance and they're horrible now. So what I remember talking to a friend and he said like, no, I don't want customs for me fighters and for Palutena. I'm like, what's the worst that's gonna happen? Real talk. What is the worst? Oh, Mii's are gonna be from like bottom tier to mid tier. Ooh, like that's so bad. Mid tier Mii fighters, or Palutena is gonna move from bottom 5 to like higher mid tier. Oh my god, that's so different. Maybe those characters will finally kill Bayo, and that could change the metagame. We might see, and I think of it that way because we look at Zero, how Zero had such a dominance over the Bayos that I feel still kind of strongly to this day, Diddy is kind of a good pick against Bayo. I remember Larry entered a few tournaments and he said like, hey, I'm practicing Diddy and Marth for Bayo, specifically. And we see Leo and Zero do amazing against Bayo with those two said characters. And that kind of helps the meta game and even top 8 change. So I think, hey, if we could change the meta with just possible 2 characters, why not let it happen for a hot minute? Who's to say that what's so bad about letting a bottom 5 tier character be high mid tier? What's so bad about it? In my opinion, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's really hard to get the Smash community just change in general. I think that's just everyone knows that. But yeah, I would like to see a lot more experimenting coming up. I felt like for Glory, since for Glory was 2 stocks, the general mentality behind like the 2 stock thing, I agree with, because okay, people are coming from for Glory and they transition to like the tournament scene. It's like a more comfortable transition for them. So and then shorter games, there's all those broad topics as well. So, I mean, I definitely see that, but I just feel like no matter how solidified something is, you can always just get more data and experiment with something for X amount of time, or have a side event with this and see if people like it. You know what I mean? You don't even have to really change anything. You could just be while our singles bracket is going on, we're going to try this side bracket that's free or $1 to enter, and it's 3 stocks. See what happens. You know what I mean? And just you can do that and not even mess with your main event. If you have the balls, you can mess with your main event, but it's just hard to do that because we already kind of stated I guess the invisible law that Smash community has. You know what I mean? Because if you do this, your event's not sanctioned if you don't follow the main head rule set or whatever, right? So I still feel there's, even with that pressure going out, there's still ways around it. Yeah. And I would like to see them, experiment with it. And a lot of it's just pretty silly in terms of just I guess the impact wouldn't be that big. So you can look at it well, if the impact's not even going to be that big, why even try it? Or you can look at it oh, well, it could do something, but it's not going to be crazy broken. You know what I mean? It's not going to be that impactful. So why not try it? There's those 2 sides of the coin to look at it. And another thing too, that we have to be aware of too is in the beginning of the meta, I honestly felt stocks flew really quick because of pre-patch Diddy, pre-patch Sonic backdoor.
Oh yeah.
The patches is something that we have to adjust to.
Time out, man. Thank you so much for saying that, because I brought that argument. I can't remember to who, but I brought the argument out. I felt that pre-patch Diddy and pre-patch this and pre-patch that, stocks were flying, and I was why are we letting 2 stocks? If the stocks are flying, why are we letting 2 stocks? But go on.
Diddy could up throw people at 50 to 60 and just get a guaranteed up air. He literally had ding dong.
Yeah.
Diddy neutral with ding dong, and you could get 4 grabs and that would be a stock. Literally 4 grabs and you have banana.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous.
Pre-patch Diddy actually, I was playing against him online. I almost did not play Smash 4 competitively just because of running into him out for Glory. It's this is straight up stupid. I never want to actually have money on the line against this character.
I was on the same boat, dude. I was a Mega Man main, and I was yo, dude, I love Mega Man. Can't wait to play so much of him. And as soon as I went to my first big tournament, I can't remember. I remember I fought Zex. He was there and using pre-patch Diddy, and I was who is this guy? And then I lost within a minute, and I was I had no time to adapt. I was pretty much losing my stocks left and right, and I was this isn't fun. I'm not having fun. Versus unfortunately, it's probably a really bad character, but DDD, I'm not having fun. I'm just losing because this character's neutral is literally grab me at 50 or 60, up and kill me. And it's so hard to avoid grab. Eventually, I'll slip up, and he has a banana to help him slip up. So it was incredible. I felt that even in the early days, the evidence was there, and I don't know what happened. I don't know who decided, like, in their right mind, like, hey, 2 stocks is okay. And you even said it perfectly, Korean. Like, I felt that 2 stocks was so bad from the beginning because we're just catering for Glory, but I felt that For Glory had its own meta of characters, because I remember the early days of For Glory, like, the meta was just Little Mac. Like, real talk. It was just Little Mac. So why should I let the guy who plays Little Mac for 9 hours a day have a meta that supplements him, and not have a much more open meta where 3 stocks is like so much better? And even then, we had things like Anther's Ladder to help out, with able to play different styles instead of just having For Glory. I think what you said was really perfect when you said that. I'm gonna let you finish.
Yeah, and then, like, you look down the line, there was a bunch of patches like pre-patch Bayo killed absurdly early, pre-patch Mennonite killed absurdly early, pre-patch Sheik, you could trump and kill people at 90 with your back air. Yeah, they're like stocks just like around 100 you died or earlier. That's just how a lot of these pre-patch characters worked, and the way they nerfed it was just crazy. And like, our punish game is getting better, which is really, really good, but then like just the amount, like, I would rather just see them buff instead of nerf, because then you're kind of messing with like game lengths, you know what I mean? Like, instead of just like, unless it's like absurd, like pre-patch Diddy and pre-patch Barrow, I thought were like very absurd, like that was ridiculous. But then you can buff up characters to the other points where it's kind of just like you follow like a general guideline, which is why I think like versus fighters are a lot more easy to balance, because it's like, oh, like this character, every character you burn a bar, you get X damage, maybe some things or properties are different, but like they have an air launcher and stuff. But like, I know you don't want to simplify Smash that hard, and that's what makes Smash cool, is like how much uniqueness there is. It's really hard to find that fine line, and it's very hard to come up with these rule sets when the game is changing so much. So it's just going to be I feel like it's a combination of experimenting and getting a lot of feedback, and not just from the players, because like, of course I feel like you cater the players first, because like they're the people that make this everything happen. Like, there's no players, there's nothing. That's just how it is. I feel like you take player feedback the most important, then like you can get feedback from like commentators, viewers, TOs, and other stuff like that, because it all comes together. But yeah, just from down the line, I just feel like players are just absolute first. You get their feedback, how they feel about everything, and then you get everyone else's feedback, all the other aspects of the community, and you kind of just go from there. And because there's just so much factors, who knows, we could have tried 3 stocks and it could have totally bombed, and it could have been horrible. Who knows?
We having a conversation.
We don't know. So I just feel like, looking back on it, I hope when we go into the Switch, we're more willing to experiment, we're more willing to data mine that kind of stuff, because I feel like kind of stuff wasn't data mined as hard as it could have been. I'm pretty sure it was data mined, and I'm happy with a lot of the decisions like the top TOs made as well. Getting rid of Duck Hunt, there was like a lot of good calls that they made. They got rid of Halrid and Delfino, like they got rid of customs. Like the things that happened were good, but there was also things that didn't happen that possibly could have happened, which is like, I definitely want to see more experimentation in that point.
Yeah, in a sense, I'm happy, even though like we ultimately decided that the Duck Hunt was bad or that customs were bad. We had them in the meta for so long that like when it was time to ban them, we could look to each other and say like, yeah, we had time to try to figure out how to make these work, how to like balance them out in the meta and stuff. But it turns out these are really degenerate in a lot of situations. And we know like when we had money on the line to figure them out, we couldn't really figure them out and make them any more like, expansive. So like they had to go. Like a Duck Hunt, I remember Fallen saying like he'd take people to Duck Hunt whenever he was allowed to, because whenever Luma was that, he could hide on the tree, and whenever they tried to go to the tree, he could upbeat to the bush and then go back and forth and just wait until Luma comes back like that. And like you could never get him without Luma by him. As a result of that, like a lot of characters had shenanigans like that on that stage.
Bayo too.
We wouldn't have known these things if we didn't actually have the stage legal in tournament, right? Otherwise, you'd be like, yeah, why didn't we ever do Duck Hunt? Why not? It's a fine flat stage. There are no hazards. Why not Duck Hunt? But like now we know. Now we have VODs to point out as to why we don't do things that way. Yeah, and that's going Korean. I agree. Like we have to put in the hard data, and sometimes that means having rule sets that don't fit quite right and being okay with the rule sets that don't fit quite right for like maybe even a couple months or something. But that builds up a huge amount of research to look at, and it builds up enough time and pressure for players to say like, I'm not going to wait for this to go away. Maybe I can figure out a way to beat it so I can make money now. And then when they can't, they're like, okay, yeah, this is actually stupid. Like, let's get rid of this.
Yeah. I mean, you brought such a good argument point, Korean, and even you too, Gpik. We had several metas that pointed to evidence that two-stock format was bad. Like I feel like with that evidence is clear now. I think if we were to be in a roundtable committee with like several other TOs, you know, the evidence is there. Like, hey, we had so much busted things. Why did we continue two-stock? You know, why? There were several times where the evidence was clear that two-stock was not a format for Smash 4, yet we allowed it, and we continued to say that tournaments were going to get longer when people were losing stocks within the first 10 seconds of the game because Bayo fared you to the right side of the stage. You know, like real talk, that was some things that happened. And even stages as well. I think like there were several times where like we finally realized like, hey, this stage not that great. It was okay in Brawl, but we have a different meta now, and it's not that great. And we worked together to have that come together and, you know, fix and solve that problem. I think Smash 4 as its entirety was a rule set that was always afraid to experiment. A rule set that worked together well. You know, at some points, like we saw stages that didn't work that we should remove. But it was a rule set that never understood itself saying, hey, this is a busted game, we should probably change things. I feel that that's what it was. And I know the TOs were, you know, especially because, you know, I know the Fire and Dice TO pretty well. He was always looking out for, you know, the players. Like, hey, this makes sense. So, you know, a round table of TOs kind of agreed. I'm just curious to know, and small parentheses there for you guys. How did you guys, so Korean, how was the meta over there for you in Hawaii when you guys went through several metas of, you know, 2-stock, 3-stock? How was it there for you guys?
No one really wanted 3-stock except like some of the Brawl vets wanted 3 stocks, and that's more so like we're from Brawl, like 3 stocks is how like things are, you know what I mean? So there was that, and that didn't last too long. Hawaii right off the bat, we wanted to do customs, so we just did customs, and no one else did it. And then everyone started doing customs because Evo announced they were doing customs, and we were already like a good chunk into a custom meta. So, I mean, like we just weren't afraid to do customs, even though everyone else wasn't doing customs. So, we like everyone still kind of like enjoyed their time. It's not like people complained about it, and our main TO kind of like asked the community what they wanted, and we're like, well, we want to try customs, and that's just how it ended. And after Evo, we went back to just no custom because it was kind of just like a community-wide thing where it's just like, all right, sweet, we're not going to do customs. We tried it, and the community didn't like it. So, but it was cool because we were willing, like we wanted to try it before, like essentially we were like forced to try it because of Evo, you know? Yeah.
What about you, Gpik? I know you said you were running around in the early days of Smash 4, but I'm curious to see how things, you know, from what you saw.
So I'm racking my brain right now to remember. From what I remember as somebody who came in just around the time Diddy received his first nerf, was that most of the community was happy and excited to have the chance to play around with customs. Mainly it was like kind of the lower ends of the bracket who was really excited, like the common man was really happy. It was like, oh boy, this is a new area for me to experiment with my main, to figure out matchups with my different customs, find out what's the optimal build for every certain situation. And a lot of players were really happy about having that room to experiment with. A lot of the top players, they didn't really care so much at first. And then as time went on, they increasingly started saying, like, this is really, really stupid. And the main reason for them is like at the top level, they had to deal with a sea of Sonic mains who had picked up Hammer Sonic, and they were kind of tearing things apart with that. Like, Hammer Sonic kind of wrecked a lot of characters. It was actually pretty tough to punish for a huge chunk of the cast. And, like, a lot of people felt kind of, like, validated. Like, the moment customs were out, like, everybody had kind of had enough of in their region watching top 8s with a bunch of Hammer Sonics in it. So, like, we were all fine to move on. Actually, one of our Hammer Sonics, Mocha, actually got 13th at that Evo. right? So like we got pretty good at breeding this type of player. But then after it was all said and done, we were like, okay, customs are gone. And yeah, you did see a lot of Sonics kind of dip in results right afterwards. And a lot of people felt validated and like, see, customs were carrying people who didn't have a good sense of neutral, blah, blah, blah. I think there were still good players, but especially after that experience of seeing like specific customs really propel people over like entire matchups. Like, yeah, well, at the end of the day, like everyone was fine with it going away. I remember a few of the stage list changes as a player. They kind of annoyed me, but I understood it because like for the perspective of like, okay, yeah, like I could see, even though I was mad that like, for example, triplats were put together and banned, right? That affected me as a player because triplats were my best stage. But at the same time, though, I at least had the awareness to say, like, yeah, but that's kind of dumb that I get my best stage no matter what my opponent bans. So I think overall, the rest of the meta changes haven't been that sweeping in terms of the way that we look at the game. There was that period where Lylat was banned, but that was only like 2 weeks. So not really enough time to get a sense of how much the meta truly changed with it being gone. But yeah, that was my brief experience with it. Other than that, NorCal doesn't really branch out and experiment much at all. We have little local TOs, just like a single TO who at his weekly maybe would legalize one stage. Like I remember for the longest time we had like Wii Fit Resort or whatever. Not Wii Fit Resort. What was the it was the one that like is kind of like Woohoo Island.
Oh yeah, Woohoo Island. I actually thought that stage was great. I actually thought
that stage was terrible. We found out after a year that stage was terrible. It's a very good thing it's banned. People can like fall through the boat, and like there's a lot of weird glitchy stuff that happens there. There are too many walk-offs. That stage overall is really bad and like lets you camp forever. But we didn't know that until we tried it. So aside from those local pockets, as a wider region, we weren't into it. We had some enterprising TOs that kept things spicy for the first year. Shout outs to York, man.
Shout outs to him indeed, man. Yeah, I mean this is kind of a perfect way for me to segment a really interesting topic I had last time. And I think it's weird, and I that's kind of what I want to bring it up to you guys because you guys are also great fans of the game. I think Smash 5 will follow the format of Street Fighter 5, where we get a base set of characters, a base set of stages from the get-go. And that is so that Nintendo can slowly but surely patch the game, do several patches, and patch characters. And we're going to get DLC packs. I think that works really well for the game, and that allows Nintendo more time to consistently fix things and fix stages and fix characters, and allow us to also understand that some things need fixing. I think that's the direction we're going. I could be wrong. This could be a whole new thing, but I think that level of game makes sense, because when we look at a game like Street Fighter 5 and its success, from its failure to its success now, that it allows Capcom to say, okay, maybe Laura is too broken. Okay, we're gonna patch it. We're gonna change some things. Okay, it's been 1 year since Street Fighter 5's launch. Okay, time to add some things that we didn't add from the beginning to make things new. And then they did that. They added new V triggers. Okay, you guys want a new character selection screen and several of them. All right, we're gonna give you several of them from the Street Fighter's history. It allows them to do that, and I think that makes perfect sense for Nintendo. And I think that really works well for our community as well, because we're gonna have able to see different meta formats and allow it to change with the game as well. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Oh, go ahead.
Oh yeah, okay. We had a little stare down about that. I think a season format would actually be really neat to see for Smash. I think like that would be the best one of the best signs that Nintendo really is looking at it as a competitive game, to even have a concept of seasons, right, and season passes and like characters and stuff, and in terms of content. I actually kind of subscribe to a similar theory that they're going to like be releasing maybe not the largest base game, but be like doing a lot more DLC, partly because I think the DLC was a success in Smash 4. I feel like everybody who owned the game bought like almost all the DLC except maybe Corrin and Lucas. And one of the things that's conspiracy theory looking at is the fact that they chose to just so far name this game just Super Smash Brothers, right? This isn't Super Smash Brothers 5 or Super Smash Brothers Skirmish or whatever. It's just Smash Brothers. I feel like they want this to be the full institution of Smash Brothers for a huge period of time. So that means they would need to keep supporting this for a huge period of time. If they're going to commit calling this game just, Smash Brothers. So that means it would have to have more dev support than just 2 years. It'd have dev support for years and years and years, ideally, so they can just keep this one static name going. That's my conspiracy theory about it. But I mean, overall, like as a spectator, it's interesting to hear about the Street Fighter V changes, to constantly see new characters popping up every single time I see a top 8. I think that's a lot of fun to just figure out as I'm watching how different characters work. So I think as a spectator, that adds a lot of fun and variety by preventing the meta of ever reaching a saturation point, because it never can settle. Things are always shaking up so fast. I do know that Capcom has been bold with a lot of the balance changes. Like one of the big ones they did at the end of Season 1 was they removed invincible shoryus without using a meter, right? You couldn't Dragon Punch in the corner. And that's actually huge for pressure. And a lot of the players hated that, because they're like, well, now when my back is against the wall, I'm basically boned. But from a spectator point of view, that just adds that much more tension to seeing somebody brought to the corner. You see them then get blown up so much harder, because it's so much harder to escape the situation. So I don't know how much Nintendo is going to be willing to toy around with the base game system. I have a feeling they're not going to toy around that much. Mainly because they're still just kind of sticking their toe in the competitive waters, and that is a bold change, because that's a change from the entire history of Street Fighter right there, that Capcom was willing to put on the line just as a balance patch for the game. So in any case, I'm really excited, just because a lot of the balance ideas Nintendo did in the patches were pretty good. Not all of them were amazing. I've heard a lot of arguments that are, maybe the grapplers are a little bit degenerate with their play styles, in terms of the optimal thing at a certain percent is just go for grab, only go for grab. I personally, my biggest bone to pick is just so many characters don't have a kill throw, and that doesn't make any sense to me, to have a whole group of characters that oh, you shield against Samus, you're fine. Whatever. Just don't let her break your shield. That you know what the setups are for that.
Yeah.
That destroys so many characters' chances of being viable, just like that. Just give him Marth's up throw. Why does Marth have a kill throw and everybody else doesn't? That's just me being salty. That's it. Yeah. I really don't get that.
Yeah, I think I really want to see that. I think it'll allow Nintendo to say if they are. I mean, remember, this is Nintendo Versus. This is their money grabber. I think they look at a company like Blizzard and Activision, who have big money because their games are esports. And if Nintendo's going to be serious about it, I hope they look at that and say, okay, so patch 1, Samus had no kill throw. Okay, patch 2, Samus has a kill throw at this percent now. So now Samus has a counterplay. But let me go. I want to hit Korean. What do you got to say?
So what was the whole topic question?
In terms of Smash 5 being potentially a long-term season-based game.
Yeah.
Sort of the same
the season, right.
Yeah.
I think that would be really cool. It's I think the Switch is a very successful console. So I think one of the things that kind of discouraged developers support from, or continuous developer support for Smash Brothers for the Wii U, is because the Wii U is not that successful. The next system already came out. They're kind of already putting focus into that. But I feel like the Switch is so successful that they're not going to look to make another system for a while, I feel. And it's interesting because the Switch is a fusion of console and handheld too. So I mean, this could be it for 3DS, or you know what I mean? It could just all be focused on the Switch. I'm not too sure if Nintendo's going to do that, but I do know that the Switch is very, very successful. So I can see way more long-term support for the game, or for this game. And I'm really excited because the community has such a huge chance to grow. Because I mean, especially this past year or two, who owned a Wii U? Except Smash players, pretty much. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was kind of just at that point, it was really hard for our community to grow. But this new game is going to be on the Switch, which is super successful. So we can get a lot more people into the Smash community through that, which I'm very excited. And I'm pretty confident they're going to support it for a long while. And having established seasons would be really cool. I would like to see something like the Smash Masters League, where it's kind of just Nintendo's are just these are the tournaments that matter. And it's crazy because if you had something like that, then you would kind of get rid of the aspect of pop bonuses too. I feel now you have to have ridiculously huge pop bonuses, and I don't I don't necessarily feel like you should have ridiculously huge pot bonuses. Like, I do want to reward the top players for, like, being really good, and I just feel like I would rather have them rewarded through like sponsors and stuff instead of just like, oh, this guy played really good today, like he gets like 50% of this huge pot. Like, it's very lopsided in terms of like who gets what, you know what I mean? So if you have it's funny because I was talking to Austin about this, and this is actually like his like way of viewing it. If you have like an established circuit from Nintendo, it's just like, these are the circuits that, like, these are the tournaments that matter. You go to these and you get points, and at the end of everything, like the points, like, you either have like a big bracket or just those points are the ranking.
Yeah.
Like, just bang. Like, you don't even need like PGR or anything. It's just like boom. Like, these are the rankings. Oh, yeah, we don't have to put a $30,000 pot because these are the tournaments. You go to it, and if you want to go to it, you don't. And if you don't want to, you don't. And then you're not on the final rankings. You know what I mean? Like, it puts that sense of like, I don't have to put $30,000 in a pot to get all the top players to come. It's just these are the tournaments. But then, of course, they're like, from there they could like monopolize stuff. Like, there's still like definite loopholes in it, but yeah, I definitely would like to see like that kind of structure.
Yeah, and I think that's really good because basically, like, in a lot of senses, God, I'm losing my train of thought here. But basically, in a lot of senses, I feel that it's kind of a shame that sometimes you want to have a big tournament, but if there's no big pot bonus, there's no players that really want to go, and it's a shame. Sometimes it's a great tournament or a really, really nice tournament that they're looking at, but no pot bonus, no players. And I think it works well for Nintendo to even put themselves and say like, hey, we're not gonna have maybe a 2GG circuit or a Smash Masters League, but we are gonna do every 3 months we will have one big tournament. You can participate, and you will gain X amount of stuff and points and things like that. And not only that, it also allows sponsors and teams to start looking at players a lot more. That's best example ever is Zero. He won that invitational, and I'm pretty sure TSM started saying like Zero is the guy, the face of Smash, because he won that invitational. And I'm pretty sure if Void or Fallen or The Buzz, were to win one of those, Nintendo things, teams are going to be looking at him like, hey, this guy is one of the faces of Smash because he won that invitational, things like that. Go ahead, Gpik.
One thing I wanted to add on to, I think a future where we don't have to worry about having massive pop bonuses would be so good for a tournament scene, because pop bonuses are important for drawing the top talent, but like, that's the only players whose experience it enriches, right? Like the 2-2 grinders and everyone below that, they're never going to see any of that pop bonus dollars, right? All they see it as like, oh, maybe it's more likely that like Gluttony is going to show up to this event or something, right? Because this pop bonus is that absurdly huge. But like, then they're just hoping to grind sets with them. Other than that, like, it doesn't help them at all. So the sooner we can find ourselves in a position where we don't need to inflate our pot that huge to get like top talent, that's when we can start making the event itself more fun for everyone else. Like, I like to look at like this past few months already, like Frostbite was an event that a ton of players absolutely loved. And that had nothing in the pop bonus, right? It reached its cap, though, immediately, because they instead invested in a bunch of things that the players would like to have, like tons of side tournaments. Like every single hour, there was a new side bracket happening. They had that whole artist alley flying out artists that was really good. Community. Yeah, that nobody had ever gotten to see. And like the majority consensus of that event, of the people that were there, is they absolutely loved it. People from home, they remember the 3 Baos and top 4, that sort of thing. That's unfortunate. But of the people there, they were having a great time. And like, you compare that with like the iBuy Power event, Masters from like the end of last year. Like, it was announced short notice, and it was like the polar opposite, right? It was an event that was like in a tent outside, right? But it had a 10K pot bonus, right? It had an absurdly huge pot bonus. And what was that experience like? Well, most of the people, like, they had a pretty fun time and stuff. The competition was excellent. We had so many top players come out, but then it was just the top players coming out. And I think we also actually kind of in a way saw the same thing with the Smash Masters event in Vegas. We had 30K pot bonus, and we did see some fantastic sets and stuff. But it feels like those are the players that really walked away with the most of it. Like, nobody else came to Vegas for that event because there wasn't that much being enticed for them. So, like, if we're in a world where we're in a post-pot bonus world, we could put that 30K towards making an event that people would want to fly out to. Yeah. Right? And I think that would be really awesome. And that would then, I think, bring the community even closer together and that sort of thing. And that's what I love. I love just meeting people at these events. So I'm down for the post pot bonus future, right?
Yeah.
I'm hoping that happens for that.
And yeah, and that allows us to trace back to like the experimentation of Smash 4, like things we want to see change, and things as we move on from 4 to 5. As a community, I feel that even if there is no pop bonus, the thing that gives back more than a pop bonus, and I only know certain players get it, but like if a team is attached to it and they say the winner of this event will be sponsored by us for a full year, like that's money that gives back. Especially if, of course, if there's a contract and they have a what's it called a salary, like a team salary, because I know some players receive team salaries. If for an example, Phoenix One were to go out and say like, hey, look, there is no pop bonus. There is a set amount of money you will win, but we're guaranteeing you that if you win this tournament, we will sponsor you fully for 1 year. That's more money than a pop bonus in reality. That's money that you get back. And then we'll sponsor you for a full year. We'll give you salary for a full year. That's amazing. I'm pretty sure that's a lot on the line to if you think about it over the span of X amount of time. That's more than the pop bonus you would originally win. And even for small and local TOs to say like, hey, look, we're gonna have a circuit. To quote one really nice circuit that we had here, we had the Animora Land Hero League, and the winner of that, won a full sponsorship to G5. And, shout out to Shine for it. That's really good. You get a free ride to G5. Sure, that's not a lot of money, but that's a free ride to G5. You pretty much get to feel like a top player, and not a lot of players get that. And I hope that we as a community will also start looking to a post pop bonus world, and I know that a lot of players, they live off Smash, and that is their lifestyle, players like K9 is Bruce, who's one of them, and even Void as well. That's a lifestyle that they have. I hope that we can also find a middleman as a community to not only give a pop bonus, but also have a way to give people an opportunity to have more teams and have more fun, because I enjoyed the Vegas. I didn't go to the Vegas, so I didn't go to Smash Masters, thinking I was going to be top 8, but I went to generally have fun, and I wish they probably would have put like, hey, we have Smash Masters, but like look over there, there's a Street Fighter 5 thing going on, and it would have been cool to see things like that going on as well.
Yeah, I mean, I had a great time at Smash Masters myself. Like, that's because I'm also, for my target demographic is like, I love seeing top level Smash in person. Right?
Oh yeah,
like,
it's great.
That's for me. But like, I hope as time goes on that like, as we can afford to remove the pop bonus from going in there, as we're able to get like developer incentives for the player, that then frees us to move that into the things that improves the experience for everyone else in the community. And then like that then it makes it more likely that somebody who peeks in finds something they really like and then sticks with it.
Yeah. Korean, you were gonna say something?
Oh no.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I think Smash Masters was a really nice event, and that's we talked about it. We talked about why some teams haven't picked up players, and I hope the buzz will one day be picked up. Please, somebody pick up that man.
He's so smart. He's so smart.
and honestly, I've grown very fond of him over the course of the SoCal Smash League. Fallen, I hope somebody picks up Fallen. I never thought I'd find a Rosalina Luma player that is enticing, a little more enticing to watch than to buzz. But Fallen is that man. I hope, and even Cosmos. I hope teams are looking at that and say, you know what, hey, these two people are very marketable. And I think the Buzz is slowly and surely starting to become a very marketable person, building up his brand. I mean, we joke about it, but now people call him the Lips for a reason. So I think, ladies and gentlemen, and you guys, I think that's a show. I think we're at a wrap. We had a very nice discussion. I want to thank, of course, Korean for coming out and joining us.
No
giving us a nice, really solid debriefing of SoCal Smash Masters. I'm sorry, ESA Smash Masters.
We're so used to being in SoCal.
Yeah,
it's okay.
I know. Thank you so much for giving us, a debriefing, and I hope I enjoy the event. Going forward, I hope to see. I'm excited for a lot more of it, especially the one in China, and I'm pretty sure they're going to be looking for a lot of feedback as well. So good to them. Thank you, Gpik, for your topic. I felt that your topic was a great way to end it. a really good way to look at the community from a timeline and see where we were and where we're at and where we may possibly go. And of course my topic was kind of opening the doors to see as maybe there is a reason why some players have yet to be picked up by a team, the Buzz being one of the big names, why he hasn't been picked up by a team. I'm sure someone's talking to him, but I think as a player standpoint, sometimes players aren't that marketable, in terms of that, they don't have a story or a backstory. A team may see them as lame, and I hope they don't see them as lame forever, because they are something to be looked at, from a different standpoint. But ladies and gentlemen, that's our show. That's our show for the week. I apologize for the delay. Sometimes it's a little hard, to gather the talent that we have, and today's talent is pretty big, if you ask me. Yeah. Yeah. Of course, the master analyst, Korean in the red, right there on the right-hand side, and of course the hero of NorCal in the middle, and myself with no title, Vance, on your left-hand side. Gracious host, I guess. Let me host, I guess. That's our show for the week. Of course, some of you guys may have missed my opening topic because I was told that my mic was on mute. Of course, each and every week here live on twitch.tv/SoCal Smash Network. I like to bring together what is our roundtable of commentators and hopefully players soon, all for our discussion, and we bring our topics to the table to talk about, Smash in general. And it's pretty much a nice little show for you guys to let you guys hear our topics all together, and we come together each and every week, possibly bi-weekly, and we may change the day from Friday to Saturday so we can get more players on the show, because I know a lot of people have been asking me like, hey, it'd be really cool if you get this player, and I'm like, I want to get this player, but today is fucking Punch Fridays, and it's the last day, I believe, to get points for the SoCal Smash League. So I know I reached out to AC and he really wanted to do it, but I know he's looking for those points. So I also want to make sure that I'm very considerate about for you guys as well, because I know Gpik, you have a flight to catch. And I know Korean, you have something to do afterward.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna get ready to go to Falcon Punch.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there you go. See, so hey man, that sounds. I'm actually gonna go watch Ready Player One, because I live in SoCal and right now the traffic is horrible.
Oh my god, yeah.
Coming from the 818 area of the valley, traffic is horrible. But yeah, there are a lot of things. Of course, if you guys have any questions, you guys can tweet out at me at Vance_EXE. Please let me know of any feedback. You can also post the feedback in the comments below, of course, if you're watching the VOD. And of course, please follow these great guys, of course, at Gpik Smash and at GSM Korean. These guys are amazing talent, and you guys will definitely be seeing them through the course of the SoCal Smash. Yet again, I'm sorry. You guys will be seeing them through the entirety of the Smash Masters League, and of course several events here hosted in SoCal as well. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, this is Vance with the SoCal Smash Talk Show. Do you guys have anything else to say before?
Thanks, Vance, for having this. This was a very fun 2 hours. We did talk about some subjects that I think is have lengthy conversations about very often. So thanks.
Yeah, thanks for hosting, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you guys for joining me so much. It's been an honor. It's crazy to actually be able to talk to you guys, because I've been so used to seeing you guys on a screen, and now I'm like, hey, I'm talking to them. This is amazing.
But we're still on a screen just talking. Yeah, Nothing's changed. Nothing's changed from the user experience. Yeah, except we can hear you now.
That is true. I am honored to be joined by you guys. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, I will be bringing you guys some new hosts. I hope to bring these guys yet again. They may join us in the future episodes. But if you guys have any ideas or any structures about the show, please tweet at me or leave a comment below what you guys might want to see from the show. And I believe that is it, guys. Thank you so much. This is Vance, Gpik, Korean, signing out. All right, cool, guys. That's it.